I think the videos in this series will be divided into various parts. Each part will contain maybe 2-3 features. I don't know. Anyways, we'll see how it goes. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. Cliff here. Today we'll be looking at the first video in this series of how to build a WhatsApp clone. We will look at our page structure as well as maybe our login and sign up processes. Now, before we begin, I would like to inform you watching that this video is ideal for intermediate to advanced users. So before you continue, you should know at least bubble basics. You should have familiarized yourself with this menu and how to use most of these features here, be it the design workflow, data, what's or not. Okay, and let's begin. Also, this app is going to be a single page app, so we're building everything on one page, and we're going to make it responsive for all screen sizes. So let's start. Firstly, we'll begin by building our page structure. As you can look, I have nothing on the page currently, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull up my editor and just go to the layout and give this page a row. Change that later. I'm gonna go with 980 by 800. Okay, let's centralize that. On here, I like to always go with the group first. Let's put a group there, and let's give this group a role as well. And fix with no. Take out this and min height. Yeah, so we're gonna apply stretch it so that it fills the whole page here. I'll call this entire app. Okay, all right. So our app is going to have two states, right? A logged in state and a logged out state. So each time a user has either created the account and is logged in, or the user is logged out, so someone who comes to the app for the first time. So we will need two groups for that. We're just going to change this. I'm changing this to align to parent so that we can have access to the 9 nanos. I'm going to paste or bring in a new group. We'll call this let's say log out. This group is for those that have not logged into the app, and we would give this a column for now. Not fixed width, stretch, and fit content to hide. That's okay for now. And so by default, let's just give this some colors so that we are able to differentiate for now. Give this light green, and let's give our main page maybe that brown. Yeah, okay. So we want this group to only show when the current user is logged out, right? that's when we want this group to show. And by default we're gonna say it shouldn't show on page load. So let's just go ahead and duplicate this, copy this, and bring it down. I'm gonna call this group login, right, and give it a color of light blue. Okay, now we want this to show when the current user is logged in. Okay, so now if we preview, right, the group above should show and not the one beneath. Perfect. Okay, so let's go back. I don't like this, so let's go back to the page itself and the layout. No, I think the first group, so the initial group that has the group logged in and out in it, let's give it a max width of 980 as well as the page. Let's look at that. Perfect, that's what I want. Okay, so these two groups will contain everything that has to do with our app, right? So whether it has to do with a logged-in user, anything that has to do with the logged-in user will go in this group, and then anything that has to do with the logged-out user will go in this group. So both of them can never be visible at the same time. So I'm just going to align all of them to the top nano here. It's going to look and see if, yeah, there we go. Alright, let's hide the login group and work with our logout group. For both groups, log in and out, we need to collapse the hide when they are hidden. Okay, so just go ahead and do that. I'm gonna have to add an image element and a text, and both of those are inside a group called app name / icon. Now this group is inside our logout group. Okay, so let's go ahead and centralize our logout group. Okay. And so this group holds the image and the text. Let's centralize this as well, and it has a gap. Okay, so I just implemented a gap of 10, so you can go ahead and design this however you want. Let's look at that, how it looks. Okay, that's great. Let's take away this color now, as well as this for now. Alright, now for our sign up / login, we're going to create a reusable element. Okay, the reason why I still have that, most of you will not have that in your apps. The reason why I still have that is because this app was created when the new responsive engine was not yet out of beta. So anyways, I'm going to give this width of 600. and I'll leave the mean height at 200. I'll also give it border of 10, and this element is going to hold our login, sign up, as well as resetting password. So similar to this, you're able to log in, you're able to create an account, and you're able to reset your password. So that's what we build in there. Let's add a container and we'll call this container app. Or it's like to have everything in one container. So we're going to give this column should stretch to its max, no min, and let's leave this at 150. Okay, so in this group we're going to have another group. This time around it will be the group for the buttons. Let's look at elementary. Okay, everything in the right position. This group is going to be a row because we're going to put 2 buttons in it. Can't we see that? Oh, it's fixed now. It should be and the mean width should be, let's say, 100 for the mean width. Alright, let's bring in our buttons. So this will be, we should be logged in. And if we copy this and paste, this should be to account. Alright, now the group that holds both buttons, right, this group, go to the layout and let's now let's go with this. And so you are simply aligning the elements in the group to have a space between them. Let's align the group itself to be in the center. Then this element on each button, align it to come to the center as well. Okay, now obviously this is too close to the edge and it doesn't look good, so let's go to the first group, the container, the app that has everything, and excuse me, we're going to give it a padding. Okay, so on the right give it a padding of 10 and the left 10 as well. Okay, that looks better. Alright, alright, so for us to see how this looks like, so we're actually implementing these buttons. So for us to see how this looks like, let's go to our index page, and on our index page we're working on the page logout. Right, inside the page logout we have a group that has an image and a text. Now let's add our reusable element beneath that group. Okay, so we have the group logout, inside the group logout we have the group that has the image and the text, and then we have our reusable element just beneath it. So let's look at that and how it looks. Okay, not quite like this, so let's fix that. Let's go back to our reusable element and let's give the element itself a max width of 600 as well. So max width rather, not min width. Max width, take away min width. Okay, let's refresh this and see. Oof, still okay. Oh, I think we need to fix that on the index page itself. So on the index page, the reusable element itself, when you've placed it on the page, let's align that to center. I think you have to give it a max width here of 600 in our case. As you can see, it's now looking like this. Okay, now I don't like this. It's not stop at the very edge of the page. Let's fix that by giving the page itself, or rather the first group in the page, a top margin of say 20. That way we have, yes, that buffer at the top there. That's great. Okay, now let's go back to our group sign up, and in here we're going to build the login and sign up processes. So let's expand. I was like looking at my elementary. Alright, so add another container, and this container will be login. So it's going to have everything involved with logging in. So your email and your password, all of that will be in here. Let's centralize that and let's make it a column. Centralize, no. Let's take away the min width as well. Okay, one thing I would like to do is to give this a gap. Okay, so I am with the main container that has everything in it. I want to give it a gap of 10 pixels so that you see we have this buffer here now. Yeah, okay. Now back in our group login, let's place our login elements. I've gone ahead and placed a couple of elements in our login group. So a text element, a group, and a button, right? So if you look at our elementary here, we have this text, this group, and a button, right? So again, the login group is a column, right? That is hidden on that, whose height is collapsed when it's hidden, and inside we have a text element, a group. Now this group has a text element and an input. Okay, so just copy duplicate for the same for the password. So this will be the email and the password, right? And then we have a login button. Now in the group for password, you can add a text element at the bottom, and then make that text element fit to it and align it to the right. That's it. Okay, now our login is supposed to take the email and the password. So let's do that. So if you come to accounts, you see log the user in. Now it's demanding for the email and the password. So we get the element, the input element that holds the email, and we'll get the file there. You can as well do it this way by getting the password here. Now for those of you who want to give your users an option to select whether or not they should stay logged in, you can add a radio button and then get the value here. We can just leave this to yes. So this will log the user in. Now let's proceed. Everything's good. Okay, let's look at our app for now. Let's see. So on page load, this is hidden, right? I only want it to show when this button is clicked, and for that we're going to use states. So use a custom state, and to use a custom state I always like creating dynamic data. So first of all, I will create an option set for that. Just delete this. I'll call this option set log in nav login, right? So nav stands for navigation. Create that, and then the options are, or rather, let's call this, doesn't matter what you call it, right? So long as it serves the same purpose. Let's call this nav sign up. Right, and then in here now we have log in as an option. We'll have create account as an option. So these two options, we'll use them now as custom states here. I'll set the custom state on the reusable element itself. Now it's a good practice that when you are using custom states in reusable elements, you should set it at the level of the reusable element and not an element inside the reusable element. So the reason for this is because if you do set it, say for instance here on this group, you will not be able to access it from outside of this reusable element, right? So if we say on page load we want to change the state of this while we're on a different page, it will not work since we are setting the custom state up here. But if you set it on the reusable element itself, you'll be able to access it from outside of this reusable element, say in another page or in another reusable element. We'll get to see that once we reach the index page level. So I'm going to set a custom state on this element by going here and adding a new custom state. I'll just call that nav, and it's going to be now our option set. Okay, you could use text, you could use number, whichever you prefer, but I always prefer making all my data dynamic. So I'll use the option set I created, and the default value is going to be blank. Okay, we need it to be blank because we use it as well. So close this, and now let's give this group login, right? This group, let's give it a conditional now for when it's supposed to show. So we're telling it to only show when the reusable element state that we just created, and the name of our reusable element is signup. Okay, so when the state we just created is login, then we want this element to show. Okay, now if we refresh our page, we're not going to see anything because that state is empty. Remember, we left the default as empty and we've not set any workflow on these buttons. So, but for testing purposes, if we change the state, the default state, and we set it to say login, let's see what happens. You see, we get this. Okay, right now, but like I said, I need it to be empty because I will use the blank state. Now let's set the state on this button. So when this button is clicked, I want to set the state of action, set the state of the sign up, the nav to login. That's all. So if we refresh our page, nothing shows. If we click here, we should see that. So by clicking here, we're setting the state of the reusable element to a certain value, and since the group that holds this element is meant to show only when that value is true, that's why we're able to see it now. Okay, now let's do the same for this other button. Before that, I'll just copy this over, copy this, and then when I start a workflow on that button and I paste that, that's all I need to do. I'll just change this to create account. Okay, this will come in handy when we're working on the create account flow. All right, so the next thing to do, let's look at our base. All right, go there. Okay, so far our app is looking good. So I've gone ahead to duplicate these elements in here for our create account. So let's just hide the login. Then if we click on our sign up, we have in our sign up group we have another group called email and password. The reason for this is because we're going to have several other groups in here in order to achieve this effect for next, right? So the idea is when you input your email and your password, you're not able to take next, and then you fill in another form, and then you take next, you fill in another form, whatever. So maybe then you're able now to sign up at the end. Okay, so to implement that, we need to hold the various groups inside the sign up group itself. For our login, we just created everything in it directly because there are no steps involved in logging in other than just entering your email and password. Okay, so our sign up group is a column, right? I've centered it, no width, and we're fitting everything to height, right? So in it now we have a group called email password, and in this group we have a text element, we have another group, and a button, so similar to the login group, right? So the idea is when you click on next, you should be able to hide these elements and then show other elements. Okay, so for that again, I'm going to create another option set, and I'll call this new option set it's going to be nav sign up flow create. I think this name is clashing with this, so we'll change this name later. But for now, let's just continue. In there, we're going to have steps. come back to this sign up flow. In here we're going to have steps, right? So we can see, we just say step 1, create. Step 2, create. If we need another step, we'll create later. Right, so this group that holds the elements that deal with creating an account, we need to give it a custom state, right? We need to give it a conditional, and this time around we'll hold the custom state that has to deal with this conditional within the app, because there's never going to be an instance where we need it outside. But for our design purposes, let's just continue with the same trend. We'll create another custom state here called sign up flow, and we'll refer to our sign up flow option set. Now this one is going to have a default value of step 1. Okay, and the reason being because we always want this to show when the user clicks on create account. And the conditional we're giving here is that when sign up logins, sign up flow, not nav. So when the sign up flow is step 1, we want this group to show. We're collapsing and we're hiding it on page load. So make sure this is unchecked and make sure this is checked. Okay, so now if we remember, we already set up our workflow on this create account button that sets the state of the page of the reusable element to create account, and we need for our sign up to give it a conditional as well. But let's just go and refresh and let you see the error that's going to come up. So by default we have the nav state as login. That's why you're seeing this. If we change that state to create account, why is that still showing? Let me verify. So our state doesn't have a default. We removed that earlier, and our group login has a conditional to only show when nav is logged in. Okay, so actually it worked. Since the designs are kind of similar, I didn't notice. So for create account, if you notice, it says enter your email address to create your account, and for login it says enter your email address to log in. Now for create your account, we're supposed to hide that when this is showing, and that is the error I was talking about that we're going to see. Reason being, we have not given this group here a conditional for when it's supposed to show. So this conditional is supposed to negate this one, right? So if we copy this conditional, the conditional on the group login, it says when sign up is nav login, this element should show. So if we come now to group sign up and we paste that conditional, we're supposed to change it to create account. That way it only shows when we click this button. So now still having a bug there. I don't know why that is. So we've not So this is one error most people make often. You're supposed to hide this now on page load, and then let's collapse that when it's hidden. So let's try again. So if we log in, that's good. Yes, and if we create account, that's good. Okay, so create account. We have this group insights. The user fills in all their details and they click on yes, and they click on next. Then we should take them to another screen asking them to input be something else, maybe their profile picture or their bio, whatever information you want to collect before you sign up the users on your app. I've gone ahead and added another group in our group sign up. So this container sign up, we previously worked on this, we recently worked on this, and now I have added another group inside. Remember, this sign up container is a column, right? So everything is stacking on each other. So we've worked on this where we are asking for the user's email and password, and then we'll have a next button. So the idea is that when the user clicks on this next button, they should be able to see this screen below, and then they create account button. Okay, so let's hide this one, move and work on this. Now we just need to make sure that this is not visible on page load. This is not visible on page load, and we collapse it when it's hidden. So in here we have a text element and image uploader. So this is an image uploader under inputs, picture uploader, right? Place it and design it how you want it to look like. And I have this set to a fixed width of 100 by 100 pixels. Okay, so then I have a group. Let's go back and look at elementary. I have a group that has a text and an input element in it. So this text says your username, and then the input element is text, right? It's supposed to collect the user's username, and then I have excuse me, I have another group that holds the buttons, right? So the button for next and the button for create account and the button to return. So this button when clicked will return to this screen, this one, right? So let's say the user wants to maybe change the email, right? They can return and change the email or their password. Okay, so it's simply a group that is a row. We're aligning the elements inside to have a space between them, and we simply have two buttons inside. So if I expand the group, you see we have this button and this button. Okay, that's it, right? We have a top margin of 20 pixels, as you can see, so that we have this nice little gap here. Okay, so let's animate this, all of this. So the first step is for the user to click here after filling in these details and be able to go back. So the state will be changing is this state that we created on the reusable element itself, the sign up flow, right? So by default is on step 1. We need to change it now to go to the next step, and let's set up the logic for that. So in the first group that is visible by default, we already have a conditional on it. So this conditional is saying that when the sign up flow is step 1, this group should show. Okay, I'm going to copy this conditional over, and let's hide that, show this. I'm going to paste this conditional here and change it to say when it's step 2, this group should show. Alright, and then we need to be able to change now to forget about this conditional for now. Yeah, so let's start a workflow on that button, and that workflow is supposed to change the state of this sign up flow to step 2. Currently clicking this button, we are in step 1. We need to go to step 2. That's why we're changing the step to step 2. Okay, let's try it out and see. I think I have a conditional here that is stopping this button from working. Let's just take that out for now. Okay, so if the user comes and they click on create account, they input their email and their password, and then they click on next. So you see now that the state changed to step 2, and they're able now to upload their profile picture and add their username. It is at this level now that we're going to create the user's account, but before that, let's implement this back button. So we want that when the user clicks here, they should be able to go back to step 1. So it's simply copying over this step and then going on the button. Yes, let's start a workflow here that sets back the state of the sign up flow to step 1. That's all. If we refresh, you see, if we go to next and we go back, right, that's nice flow. Okay, now let's create the user's account by simply sign the user up, and we need to get the email and the password. So make sure you name your input elements accordingly, right? So you can see here I have input sign up email. For the login process is input login email. That way when you're behind here, you know which input corresponds to which one. You see, I can use this method, or I can simply come here and I'll see input sign up password, and I get the value. Now for the input here, the content format for email should be email, and that for password should be password. Okay, so once the user clicks next, right, we're going to step 2, and step 2 we're giving the user an input to enter their name, which is text, and another input to enter their, or to upload their image, profile image. Now most Bubble developers they create their design from beginning to end, and then they go to the database and set everything up. As you've already noticed, let me delete this real quick. Okay, as you've already noticed, I am working with all three at once. Okay, so I design, I set up workflows, and I set up the database, and that way I can debug as I go. With the other approach, you can create a design from the beginning to the end, and then you come and you discover that you've made certain mistakes in your design that affect the workflow or the data, so you need to undo several things. So that's why I work with the design, workflow, and data at the same time. So with our data, we're going to come in here under our user data tab and create a new field called username, which will be text, and then we'll create another field called profile image, which will be an image. Okay, right, so these two fields will hold the data that the user will upload here, right? So if we start the process of signing up the user, right, and we've already told Bubble where to get the email and the password from. Now what we can do is change another field, right, and then we select profile image, to general field, select username. So where are these fields coming from? The username is coming from here, right? You can copy that and then come over the value as well as the picture uploader. So the picture uploader's value for the person's profile image. Okay, so now when the person clicks on this button, their account is going to be created. Right, I think that's it for this session. Before I go, let's test it out and make sure we're actually creating a user by refreshing the page. Log in and just say test at app.com and use 1, 2, 3, 4 and let's say next. Okay, now again I'm just going to enter my username here. So user name, no, let me use an actual name. So test user and let me upload a random image. I'll upload an image of myself. Okay, as you can see we have the image there, and then I'll create an account. So if you understand what just happened, then it means you've been following quite keenly. So let's look at our app data to make sure the user was created. So I had some test users here for another app I was building, and just delete those. Good. And if you look here, you see this is the user we just created, right? Test user, that's the image we uploaded, that's the email, creation date and all that. So let's cancel that. And so the reason why we saw this page as soon as we logged in was because of these two groups and the conditions that we gave to the groups, right? So remember at the beginning when we were setting up the page, we had this group to show only when the user is logged in, right? And we had this one to show only when the user is logged out. So as soon as we created our account, the user was now logged in, and that's why you're seeing this group with this green button, this green container in here. Okay, so in our next video we are going to look at polishing up our sign up and login flows, and as well as creating the password reset for login users that have forgotten their password. So if you want to log in and you've forgotten your password, we are going to create this model that will send you a password reset link after you enter your email here. Okay, and yeah, so that's been it. Please leave comments below if I didn't explain something well, or if you know an easier way to do something. Please leave a comment below and I will try my best to respond. We're going to take this bit by bit so that everybody can fully understand how some key concepts can be easily implemented in Bubble. So until next time, stay blessed.